All right, Nick, let's talk about the New Orleans Saints here for just a minute. This is a team that's made a lot of new additions, and they made a lot of strong additions last year as well. I think these players are really starting to add up and get into the groove, but there's one guy in particular this offseason who looks to build on a strong season last season and continue it into a huge season this coming season.
Yeah, Miles, I think this guy that we brought up, a little research, a new report out of New Orleans Saints minicamps and OTAs shows that there is a prime breakout candidate for the New Orleans Saints as we get ready for the 2023 season. But before we get into this report and this guy's opinions and our thoughts, we want to ask the Saints fans, who is your prime breakout candidate currently on the Saints roster going into 2023? Look, can be an offensive player, defensive player, heck, even a special teams player. Give us who you think is really going to break out for the New Orleans Saints next season in the comment section below. All right, Miles, I'll throw it over to you. What do you have out of New Orleans?
Yeah, Nick, we talked a lot this past offseason about young Saints wide receiver Rashid Shaheed and how good he is. But there's another receiver on this roster who we all knew was going to be good coming into the league, and that is Chris Olave, a guy out of Ohio State who really made waves. He came in last year, put up big numbers for a rookie receiver, and looked very, very good. But now with new quarterback Derek Carr, they've been putting in some work, and it looks like Olave is really set to build on a strong season last season and break out this year. But let's get into the article now from ESPN.com. This says, it took Carr only a few seconds to set the tone in team drills during the second practice of minicamp. Carr tossed a deep pass down the sideline for an easy touchdown to wide receiver Chris Olave on the first play of 11-on-11 drills. Olave easily hauled in the pass against cornerback Alontae Taylor, and the session for the first team offense ended in 2 plays, Olave's touchdown and then a failed 2-point conversion. Olave's standout offseason feels like a continuation of his rookie year when he got 72 passes for 1,042 yards and 40 touchdowns in only 15 games. In one session of OTAs, Carr couldn't connect with Olave in the end zone in the goal line work, but immediately made sure to go right back to him and check that box. The idea was to make sure everything was perfect now, so there's no hesitation on Sundays. And Nick, I think the story goes on to talk about just the hard work that Carr and Olave are putting in. They talk about the missed pass, but he goes right back to him. He says, we want to go back anytime we miss anything, whether it's pass interference or whatever the case is, we're going to work to get it right. So this year is going to be a big year for Derek Carr. And I think it's also going to be a big year for Chris Olave. I'm curious though, what are your thoughts on this, Nick? But before we get your thoughts on this, I want everybody to stay tuned to the end of this video to hear a word from our partner, and that is Neuro. Neuro has a lot of great products, give you a quick and easy boost of energy, give you that mental edge if you take their mints or gum, let you be as efficient as Chris Olave in the end zone, catch all the touchdowns that you want. So make sure to stay tuned to the end of this video to hear more about Neuro and their products and to get your hands on our discount code. But Nick, let's get on into it. What are your thoughts on Olave and the Saints?
Yeah, so Chris Olave, I'm going to say it right now, is criminally underrated. This kid's going to be a superstar. And I compare him with his former Ohio State teammate, now New York Jet wide receiver, Garrett Wilson. And everyone is really high on Wilson. Everyone calls him the next great thing. Everyone talked about him all last season and says, look what Garrett Wilson is doing with the quarterback situation with the New York Jets. Everyone knows the Jets with Zach Wilson and then Mike White and all the other issues at the time were not a good quarterback situation. Kind of similar to the New Orleans Saints a little bit. A lot of revolving door, no clear-cut guy. And both the Jets and the Saints actually now have their franchise guys, at least for the short term, in place with the Jets having Rodgers and, of course, the Saints with Derek Carr. But if you look at Garrett Wilson's stats, Garrett Wilson caught 83 balls for 1,100 yards in 17 games. That's a little bit more, a tiny bit more than Wilson's stats. Olave's stats that you brought up, 70 balls, 1,000 yards, 4 touchdowns in 15 games. So they basically were the same player in terms of production, but Olave, for whatever reason, isn't getting all the love that Wilson is. I don't get it. I don't understand it because I think Olave is a heck of a player. He's just a natural out there. And it wasn't just his production. I looked into his Pro Football Focus, or PFF grade, and Chris Olave graded out as an 82.5 last season. For those of you who aren't aware or aren't very familiar with PFF, anything that grades in the 70s is a good, solid player. Once you get into the 80s, that's like a star player. That's a Pro Bowl caliber player. 90s is like Hall of Fame. That's like Aaron Donald kind of stuff. So that fact that Olave graded out in his 80s, the mid 80s range his rookie year, to me says he's already a star, even if his production hasn't caught up yet. And that's what I love about PFF, because PFF, they grade the film, they go each play and grade each player. They can be kind of a lagging indicator. And what I mean by that is a player can have a great grade in PFF, but not have great production because his team isn't that good around him. The Saints last year at quarterback are a prime example. Olave, a lot of injuries. Of course, Michael Thomas not playing with the wide receiver position, a lot of revolving door at quarterback. What's going on there? And that kind of hurts your production, obviously, at a wide receiver, at the wide receiver position. But when you look at his grade in terms of how good of a player he actually was, according to PFF, it was a lot higher than that. So when I see a player with low production in a chaotic environment, but a high grade, I say, okay, the moment the environment doesn't become chaotic, ergo, you bring in Derek Carr, Michael Thomas looks like he's going to be ready for training camp, suddenly that production is going to skyrocket. I think Olave is going to have a monster season statistically and, of course, grade-wise for the New Orleans Saints in 2023. I love the Saints roster. I talk about it all the time. I think they're great at a lot of positions you need to be great at. Derek Carr is looking good. But I really think once we start seeing Olave and Michael Thomas and Derek Carr and Don Rashid Shaheed as well on the field come 2023 regular season time, September, people are going to be blown away by how good this offense is going to be. All right, Miles, we would like to give a special thanks to our partner today's video, Neuro.
That's right, Nick. And I want you to go with me on a journey really fast. I want you to imagine this. It's 4th and goal in the big game, Nick. Your team is relying on you to make the big time game winning play. I know you've been in this situation before, Nick. The stadium is roaring. The clock is ticking. The game is on the line. But if only in that moment you were able to have some Neuro Gum. Neuro Gum will help you stay concentrated, and it gives you a burst of energy without a nasty crash.
That's right, Miles. Neuro has thoughtfully curated ingredients and does endless lab testing, which means that you can reach the right state of mind safely and consistently. That's the most important part. It gives you a clean burst of energy and focus without the jitters of coffee or any of those other energy drinks.
That's right, Nick. And if you click our sponsor link in the description below, you can enjoy energy, calm, and focus whenever you need it.